Warcraft, Dragonflight continues to give us new information. If you saw my short, we already ranked the ranged weapons, the shields, and the offhands from the dungeons in Dragonflight, so we have all the information on weapons from dungeons. That's what we're ranking, guys. I made a couple small changes to the tier list, but this is what we came up with in our short, and now we're going to go ahead and do one-handed weapons and two-handed weapons in this video. If you guys like tier lists like this about Dragonflight, World of Warcraft, video games, or absolutely anything, let me know in the comment section what you would like to see, and if you would like to see more of it, consider subscribing to the channel. I'm going to go ahead and get started though. Either way, I appreciate you watching. We're going to continue on here with one-handed weapons, or I guess start one-handed weapons. We have axes, glaives, which were actually listed as two-handed weapons. That doesn't make sense to me. Let me know if I'm missing something, but yeah, glaives. Daggers, interesting ones, maces, and swords is what we're going through. So these are all one-handed weapons. I mentioned this briefly because it was a short. I mentioned this briefly that because this expansion is focused on the Dragonflights, there's a lot of very bright and vibrant colors in this expansion and in the colors that they're using. You see this a lot with a lot of greens, which, you know, goes with that green Dragonflight, and I'm going to be putting a lot of those in great because I feel like green transmog is something we really are lacking, or at least I am. Maybe I'm missing some key transmog stuff. I do like this axe, but I am going to put most of the variants of it in mid. That's something that you've probably noticed by now. What we're seeing here is 4 or 5 variants of each weapon. So these are mostly one for each Dragonflight, right? So if we look at the axes, we have the green Dragonflight, the bronze Dragonflight, the red Dragonflight, blue and black, you know, ish. Not all of them are those exact colors, but we do see some variants, you know, with each of those hues. And I think at least for the one-handed axes, the green is the best. These glaives, I'm actually really not a fan of. I'm going to put... I think I'm just going to go ahead and put all of them below average. Maybe we put the blue one in mid, because I do think the blue one is a little bit of a different color than we see from glaives a lot. So that's cool, you know, but I really think this is an ugly glaive design. Speaking of ugly, I think these daggers are pretty ugly as well. Yeah, I don't really know. Maybe they're fist weapons, actually, but I believe on Wowhead, which I should link below, where I got all these images from. It was from Wowhead. They did a data mine right before the alpha started. So these may actually be fist weapons, but I believe they were listed as daggers. Could be wrong, though. I think these are all hideous as well. Again, the blue, maybe a mid design on the blue, because I do like how the blue goes with the gray and the black feathers. That's kind of neat, but the others, not so great. For the daggers, definitely looking a little bit better now. Again, the green one, really liking that, something a little different. Red one, I'm going to put in nice or unique. I think that's a fair kind of judgment there. But unfortunately, these other three, they all just kind of look the same. I'm going to go ahead and throw them in mid. It's a nice design for a dagger. Looks a little primitive in a good way. But nothing that's nothing that's going to blow me away. For one-handed mace, this looks more like a gun than a mace. And there was some other images of it that were a little bit more elongated, but unfortunately I had to pick the images that would fit in, you know, these things. We'll see that more with two-handed weapons in a sec. Yeah, this mace, I'm not a huge fan of. I suppose the blue and the green we can go ahead and put in nice or unique is an interesting color for, you know, a mace of this nature. The brown one, absolutely going to say below average. And then these other two, the red and the what I assume is black, it's kind of a bluish, but I assume this color is meant to be black. I'm just going to put it in mid. I'm not a huge fan of this mace design, but I do think you could do something with it. Just maybe not with this one. Finally, we have some good ones. The swords. There's 2 types of one-handed swords that are going to be transmoggable in, you know, these dungeons, coming from these dungeons. And this first one with the flaming blade, I think is, I don't know if all of them are must-haves, but we're going to start them all up here and then take a look. Very minor differences in the color. The black Dragonflight one looking absolutely fantastic. I'd say the red one looks great as well. This is an instance where the blue I actually don't think looks very good because it contrasts poorly with the red. Sometimes you can get away with that, but in this sense, I don't think it looks good. So I'm going to drop it down to mid. It's still a good looking sword, but you know, nothing crazy. The green, I'd also say, you know, it is a nice and unique color, a nice and unique sword, but, you know, probably the bronze is going to drop that down too. Yeah, I think it's really those two because the black Dragonflight and the red Dragonflight, their hilts match that blade so well. I think those are probably must-haves for your transmog collection. And we're looking like these green ones are also pretty, you know, good ones that you're going to want to get. We have one more type of sword, which is a more traditional type of sword. Reminds me of a lot of Shadowlands designs of weapons, and in a good way. I know a lot of people didn't like Shadowlands in general, but I did like some of the transmog that came from it. I'm going to say these two are must-have. Maybe not this one. Maybe this one's just in great. But this red sword is really nice. If you want just you know, a plain-ish red sword, lots of different hues on it. You have the jewel in the middle that can fit with some different transmog. I think that's going to be cool. As well as this silver one with the blue hilt. I'm going to say this one's mid, pretty standard. Gold as well, pretty standard. And this one we'll put up in nice or unique. A little bit of some different colors going on there. Yeah, guys, that's it for our one-handed weapons. Of course, let me know what you think. Let me know which of these weapons that you will be looking out for. Obviously, depending on what you play, if you play a survival hunter, well, I guess they use polearms, so I guess you won't be here. But depending on what you play, obviously you may be using some different stuff. So let's go ahead and hop on over to the two-handed weapons, and then we can talk about what survival hunters will probably use. Continuing on here, guys, with our two-handed weapons, we can see some of them are getting cut off. We will get to those in a sec. But the two-handed mace, fitting pretty good in our image here. Unfortunately, I don't think it's a very good design. It has a bit of a hook feel. It resembles more of a polearm to me, like if it was longer. I'm going to go ahead and put the red one in mid. I do think that color goes better with the kind of bone design of the mace. I suppose it is a mace because you just beat somebody with this giant bone, but its curvature and shape just is a little odd to me. We can maybe put the black one in mid as well. And looking next at the pole arms and the staffs coming up here, obviously some of them are getting cut off. So just to give you guys an idea, here is what the different pole arms were meant to look like. So we have a very sharp point coming out here on these ones, and then these more curved ones that resemble more of the daggers we looked at earlier. It has that, you know, nice curve like the daggers did. This is kind of a side view. This is a full horizontal view over here on the right. So this is about how long they would appear. So I'm a big fan of just these in general, how long they are, as well as that point. And these are actually the first ones we're about to talk about. So again, a dagger-like blade on the bottom, as well as a large knife sword blade type thing on the top. Couldn't fit it all in the image on the tier list, but hopefully this adds some clarity on what these are supposed to look like. And with that in mind, I'm keeping that up on my second screen so I'm being fair to these weapons. I am a fan of these pole arms. I'm a fan of, you know, when you have a long stick with a sword on the end, you feel like you can do some damage, and your character will look like he can do some damage as well, he or she. So I do think it's a unique design, combining together some elements of fur in there with metal and the blade. As for which color is the best, this is a situation where I think most of the colors do work. Definitely, I wouldn't say any of them are below average. I think the blue is probably my favorite. Similar thing I talked about in the last section about the one-handed weapons, where just the blue really nicely goes with the blade, and it could end up some nice color schemes for you, could give you that kind of weapon that you're looking for to bring together your blue and gray transmog. Could be an alliance set that looks that way. You know, obviously depends what you're doing. The green and the yellow, are the rest of these just mid? Maybe we put the red one up in mid. Or this might be the black Dragonflight actually, because I believe this is the red Dragonflight. Yeah, so we'll put those two up in nice and unique. These aren't blowing me away, but they are pretty good. Next up we have the long pole arm, which is more of a traditional blade at the end. Again, looking like this is what we are ranking now. And when we take a look at that, these are sick. I think these are honestly really great. Let's take a better look at the colors. There may be one or two we don't like as much. And yeah, I think the black Dragonflight actually on this one, so the opposite of the last one we looked at, just not looking as good. Actually, this might be the red Dragonflight. This might be the black. But whichever one it is, this one right here at the bottom, the fifth one, I'd say that one's probably the weakest of these. The orangish, which is the bronze Dragonflight, I assume, it's not a very unique color scheme going on here with the brown, gold, and silver, but I do like it. The blue we've talked about, the black we talked about. Green looks good as well. So I'd go ahead and put most of those in great. I should have just left this up because now we are doing these, which interestingly has 6 of them. So with almost every weapon we've looked at so far, there's been 5 designs, 1 for each Dragonflight. We assume, right, I mentioned some of the color schemes are off. Now, I'm not sure if they include the blue one twice because I don't see much of a difference between this one and this one. Right? Let me know if you guys can see a difference that I don't. Maybe the color of the blade is slightly different. But yeah, they look very, very similar. Maybe they're identical transmog, but 2 different drops. That could make sense. But yeah, let me know what you guys think there. We're going to go ahead and rank them nonetheless. The blue one that we were just talking about, I'll grab both of them. I think it's a nice and unique transmog. Definitely not something I would want to use on my, max level characters. I tend to do stuff a little more extravagant for them. But for my leveling characters, I love to do these, rugged items that just feel like they're just out there in the wilderness getting by. To that extent, I love this black wrapping. I assume the black Dragonflight one on here. Also, it's hilarious that all these have a fish on them. The green wrapping as well on here, I'd say, is pretty great. The red wrapping with the little red hue on the blade, I think, is great as well. And this one, which, let's see, we have blue, green, black. I guess this is bronze Dragonflight. It's definitely not bronze, but I'd say nice or unique. Actually, probably maybe mid, because it's a worse version of this one. The black one just looks so good in my opinion that this grayish one is just a lot worse. So we're gonna go ahead and put that down in mid. Yeah. Moving on to staffs now, or what I believe are staffs. We looked at 3 different types of pole arms in the last one. And now we're going to go ahead and find staffs. Yes, these are all staffs. So we have 3 different designs here that we're looking at. And this first one has 5, as we've been looking at as well. This one is not really doing much for me. With this one, like I've said before, I think the blue looks the best. I actually do really like the green in this one as well. But the bronze, maybe this is the green. I don't know. These ones aren't, I'd say they're probably just mid for me. This design isn't really doing it for me. When I want to pick a staff, usually it's a more caster class, and I do want something that just blows me away a little bit more. Nice or unique on these. I mean, I'd like to have all of them, obviously, just to have, but in terms of what I probably won't be using this transmog. Or any of them down here in mid for that matter. Alright, next one up here. This one looks very similar to the mace, and I mentioned that earlier that it kind of looks like it should be a pole arm, and well, this isn't a pole arm, it's a staff, so more magical looking. But I do like the colored balls inside, so we have blue, bronze, green, black or red, and then a 5th color. So this could potentially be the black Dragonflight, actually. Because it is the handle is black, so that should, be a giveaway. But a lot of times the secondary color for the black Dragonflight is red. So interesting that this ball is green. I'm not sure exactly what it is. But we'll see. I mean, it's nice that not all of these have the exact same color scheme, because I think that would have been bad. If each and every one of these weapons had an exact same green, exact same blue, and exact same red, right? That would have not been good. So, yeah, that would have just sucked, actually. So it's a good thing. So we'll look forward to seeing kind of where some of these come from. And maybe they won't explain it at all. And that's probably okay if they don't. This design for a staff is not my favorite. If we look at it over here on my second tab that I brought over, there's nothing much else to it that we're missing. There is a little hook on the bottom. There is a sharp end on the top that we can't see. But it's not really blowing me away. It looks a little primitive, as we've talked about with some of the other weapons. And that's not always a design I want for my casters personally. Maybe an orc, mage or something this could look good on. But personally, it's not my favorite. I think the red is probably my favorite, though. We can go ahead and put that one up in grade, I think. We have put very little in must-have, though, so I guess that's how it should be. We have 2 more staffs here, and these ones are unique in that they are unique designs. There's a red one and a blue one. And these look really good. I think these look better than the other staffs. I'm not sure if they're from maybe a heroic mode, maybe they're from one of the last bosses of a dungeon or something. I think they're probably must-have. I'm very intrigued on if there's a story behind these, if there's something specific, if they just are neat. And I'm wondering what happened to the other three. Is there going to be a green one and a bronze one and a black one? Or is this it? Do we just have two versions of this one? Which would be fine, but it breaks the mold of the other ones, which is interesting. Finally, guys, we have our two-handed swords. Again, taking a bit of that Shadowlands design ideas here, but also with the flowing ribbons and whatnot. This is reminding me a lot of Legion, reminding me of like Stormheim and like Odin and that kind of stuff in Legion. So I do like this. I like these swords. I think all of them look good. If we're talking about unique designs, I love the green. I think that's a must-have because if you're doing a green transmog and you want to do a two-handed sword, again, not very many options, and this is great because it's not just all one color. There's different hues in there, but it is a green sword. I'd say that as well about the red one. The exact same thing I just said, but just for red. The gold is the same thing, but for yellow, but there are a lot more gold weapons, so I'm going to put this one in great. I don't think it's quite a must-have, as I said, but still great looking. And these last two, I'm going to put them in great to start with, just so I can scroll up. The blue and the silver, I think, is great. I'm going to leave it there. And the bronze one, we've seen this with some of the bronze weapons, that we have a color scheme, a colorway of gold, brownish red, and like a teal. It's just an interesting combination of colors. I unfortunately just don't see it working with a lot. I'm going to drop it all the way down to mid. I do think it's a nice looking sword. It's a very unique looking sword. So maybe we'll put it in unique. Let's put it there. But unfortunately, I just don't see that fitting with a lot of transmog sets or fitting with what a lot of characters want to look like. And that's it, guys. This has been, in these three tier lists, every dungeon weapon that has been data mined so far for World of Warcraft Dragonflight. Let me know what you think, and also let me know what you thought of this format, doing three tier lists, so to speak, in one video. Was this a little too much, or was it fine? Let me know what your opinions are. I really appreciate you guys watching. I'll be back with some more tier lists this week, almost every day. And also, I think going to be posting a schedule that I'm thinking about doing. So look out for that if you are a subscriber. But I've rambled long enough, guys. Let's go ahead and sign out. Have a great day.